Princess Lyra stood in the grand hall of the Draxian palace, surrounded by the opulence that defined her life, every detail meticulously crafted from shimmering crystals to flowing silks. The air buzzed with laughter and applause as dignitaries from across the galaxy celebrated the annual Unity Festival. But within her chest, a storm brewed. She felt like a caged bird adorned in jewels, unable to spread her wings. Her father, the king, held court at the center of the hall, his booming voice resonating with authority. As he discussed the empire's might and future ambitions, Lyra's gaze wandered past the throngs of guests to the high windows, where the stars twinkled like distant dreams. She longed to be out there among them, exploring the cosmos free from the shackles of royal expectation. As the festivities continued, Lyra caught snippets of conversation around her, whispers of impending war against the humans who had settled on the fringes of their empire. The king's obsession with conquest filled her with dread, the thought of lives lost and worlds shattered twisted in her gut. She had met humans during previous diplomatic missions, and they were more than just the barbaric creatures her father portrayed. Unable to contain her restlessness any longer, she excused herself from the festivities and slipped into the dimly lit corridors of the palace. Her heart raced as she made her way to the docking bay, where her father's fleet was anchored. The vast ships gleamed under the low lights, each one a testament to Draxian engineering and military prowess, but Lyra felt only a sense of foreboding. When she reached the docking bay, she paused to admire the starships lined up like sentinels, each one brimming with the promise of adventure. The sleekest of them all was the Shadow's Whisper, a small, agile vessel known for its smuggling routes and evasion tactics. She had heard tales of its captain, a human named Alex Mercer, who was as notorious as he was charming. Feeling an unexplainable pull towards the ship, Lyra crept closer, her heart racing with each step. She glanced around, ensuring no guards were in sight before climbing aboard. The ship's exterior was rough and unpolished, but she felt an undeniable thrill coursing through her veins. Inside the ship, she was enveloped in a cacophony of sounds and smells. The hum of the engines vibrated beneath her feet, and the scent of metal and engine oil filled the air. Her eyes widened as she took in the chaotic yet inviting atmosphere. A crew of humans worked tirelessly, moving about with purpose and energy. Just then, the captain entered the cockpit, his presence commanding attention. He had tousled dark hair and a roguish grin that instantly captivated her. He exuded a sense of freedom that Lyra longed for. As their eyes met, a spark ignited between them. But before she could speak, he caught sight of her royal garb, and his expression shifted to one of surprise and curiosity. "What are you doing here, princess?" he asked, his tone a mixture of amusement and concern. "You shouldn't be on this ship. This is no place for royalty." She smirked at his words, her resolve strengthening. She didn't want to be treated like a fragile ornament anymore. "I'm not afraid of a little adventure," she declared, surprising even herself with her boldness. Before he could respond, a loud alarm blared through the ship, the red lights flashing as crew members scrambled into action. Lyra's heart raced. She had never felt so alive in her entire life. The ship was under threat, and in that moment she knew she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the engines roared to life, she took a deep breath, preparing for whatever lay ahead, ready to embrace the unknown and the excitement of her newfound freedom. As the alarms blared, Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline course through her veins. She had never been in a situation like this before. Her royal training had not prepared her for the chaos that unfolded around her. Captain Alex Mercer shouted commands to his crew, his voice cutting through the panic with clarity and authority. Lyra could see the crew moving with purpose, each member understanding their role as they prepared for whatever threat lay outside. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the din. Alex glanced at her, his expression serious. "A squad of Draxian enforcers is on our tail. They must have spotted you. We need to get out of here fast." Lyra's heart raced as the gravity of her situation sank, and she was now a fugitive aboard a human smuggling ship. The thrill was intoxicating. She had long dreamed of escaping the gilded cage of her life, but now that she was in it, she realized there was no turning back. Alex's crew sprang into action. The pilot, a burly man named Rex, focused on navigating the controls, while another crew member, a sharp-eyed woman named Mira, worked on the weapon systems. Lyra watched in awe as they executed their tasks with precision and skill. This was not just a ship, it was a family bound by trust and loyalty. "We need to distract them," Lyra said, her mind racing with possibilities. She remembered the tales of human ingenuity. She had heard in passing how they could turn the tide of battle with clever tactics. Alex raised an eyebrow, intrigued on listening. "What if we create a diversion, a decoy ship to draw their attention, while we slip away?" she suggested, excitement bubbling within her. Alex considered her idea, nodding slowly. "That could work, but we'll need to act fast." Without hesitation, Lyra joined the crew in preparing for the plan. Her heart pounded as she quickly explained her thoughts to Rex and Mira. Together, they'd brainstormed ideas and mapped out their strategy. The camaraderie felt electric, and for the first time in her life, she felt like an equal, not a princess, but a vital part of something greater. As they worked together, Lyra couldn't help but admire Alex's leadership. He moved through the chaos with confidence, inspiring his crew to trust one another and to believe in their mission. They operated like a well-oiled machine, and Lyra was determined to prove she belonged among them. Once the decoy ship was ready, Alex took a moment to meet her gaze. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his expression serious. She nodded, a fierce determination burning within her. "I want to help. I can't go back to that life. Not now, not ever." With a nod of respect, Alex grinned before turning back to his crew. "All right, everyone, listen up. We're going to make our move. We'll launch the decoy ship and create an opening for our escape." The crew sprang into action. Lyra's heart raced as they positioned the decoy ship on a collision course with the approaching Draxian fleet. She felt a mix of fear and exhilaration as they prepared for the impending confrontation. This was her chance to prove her worth to herself and to Alex. The moment the decoy ship launched, alarms rang through the Draxian ships as they redirected their focus. The crew of the Shadow's Whisper quickly adjusted their course, slipping away into the darkness of space. Lyra held her breath as they maneuvered through the stars, feeling the thrill of danger and the promise of freedom. As they escaped, Lyra realized this was more than just a flight from her past. It was the beginning of a new life, one filled with adventure, camaraderie, and the chance to forge her own destiny. She smiled at Alex, her heart swelling with hope and anticipation, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead by his side. As the Shadow's Whisper darted away from the chaos of the Draxian fleet, Lyra felt a mix of relief and exhilaration wash over her. They had evaded capture, but the adrenaline still pulsed through her veins. The crew celebrated their narrow escape with laughter and high fives. But Lyra's mind raced with the enormity of her decision. She had left her old life behind, and there was no going back. She watched as Alex navigated the ship with expert precision. His hands danced over the controls as he steered them into the depths of space. The stars outside seemed to shimmer with possibility, and she felt a sense of belonging that had eluded her for so long. "You did good back there, Lyra," Alex said, breaking her reverie, his eyes sparkling with admiration. She smiled back, her heart swelling at the compliment. "Thank you. I never knew I could feel so alive." As the crew settled into a routine, Lyra immersed herself in life aboard the ship. She quickly learned the ins and outs of the vessel, working alongside Rex and Mira in the engine room and weapon systems. She found joy in the camaraderie and purpose that came with their shared struggles. One evening, as they gathered in the ship's small galley for a meal, Lyra listened intently as the crew shared stories of their past adventures, each tale filled with danger, humor, and resilience. She felt a deep connection forming with them, like strands of a tapestry weaving together their lives. But she also sensed an undercurrent of tension in the air as Alex described their most recent encounters with pirates and smugglers. A sense of unease settled over the group. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and their enemies were not just the Draxian Empire, but anyone who sought to exploit their vulnerabilities. Later that night, Lyra found herself alone on the ship's observation deck, gazing out at the vastness of space. The stars felt closer than ever, and she marveled at the beauty of the cosmos. Her thoughts turned to her father and the life she had left behind. The king would not stop his pursuit easily. He was determined to crush any hint of rebellion and bring her back into the fold. She knew the risks involved in her new life, But a fire burned within her, a desire for freedom and adventure that outweighed her fears. Just then Alex stepped onto the deck, joining her. He leaned against the railing beside her, his presence comforting. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I'm just thinking about everything I left behind." He nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "It's a big change, leaving everything you know. But you're not alone in this, you have us, we're a team." Lyra smiled at his reassurance. It meant more than he could know. "But what if the Draxians catch up to us? What if they come after you and your crew?" Alex turned to her, his gaze steady. "We'll deal with it together. No matter what happens, you've shown that you're more than just a princess, you're a fighter, and I'm not letting anything happen to you." His words ignited a spark of determination within her. She felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead and protect the people she had come to care for, even if it meant confronting her father. The following days were filled with training and preparation as they honed their skills for the inevitable confrontation. Lyra threw herself into the work, learning to operate the ship's systems and how to handle the weapons alongside Mira and Rex. She discovered a natural aptitude for strategy and tactics. Under Alex's guidance, she began to embrace her new identity, not just as a royal, but as a leader, a part of this ragtag crew of misfits who had become her family. One night during a strategy session, Lyra proposed a daring plan to intercept a Draxian supply ship. She had learned the fleet's routes and believed they could strike a blow against the Empire, while also securing resources for their own survival. Alex and the crew exchanged glances, considering her idea. Lyra felt a rush of excitement. This was her moment to prove her worth. She could be more than just a princess. She could be a warrior ready to carve her own path in the galaxy. The atmosphere in the ship's galley buzzed with anticipation as Lyra laid out her plan to intercept the Draxian supply ship. She could feel the eyes of the crew on her, their expressions a mix of skepticism and intrigue. But she was determined to convince them this was their chance to strike a blow against the Empire that had tried to control her life. First, she explained the supply ship's route. She had studied the Draxian navigation patterns during her time in the palace and had identified a vulnerable stretch of space where they could launch their attack. This could disrupt their operations and send a message that they wouldn't be easy prey. "What makes you think we can take on a Draxian supply ship?" Alex asked, his brow furrowed as he considered the risks. "It would be heavily guarded, and we would be outnumbered." Lyra leaned forward, her passion evident. "If we can create a diversion, like we did before, we could catch them off guard." She looked around the table, drawing in the crew's attention. "The Draxians are overconfident. They underestimate humans and anyone who defies their authority." Rex crossed his arms and nodded slowly. "I like it. But we need to be smart about this. What's the backup plan if things go south?" "We'll use the ship's agility to our advantage," Lyra replied, her confidence growing. "We can lure them into the asteroid field nearby. It will limit their maneuverability and give us a tactical edge." Mira chimed in, her voice firm. "I've seen Draxian ships fall into traps before. They're not as invincible as they think. This could work." Lyra smiled at the support, feeling the bond between them strengthen. She continued to flesh out the details of the plan, her mind racing with possibilities. The crew joined in brainstorming tactics, refining their strategy as excitement filled the room. Over the next few days, they prepared for the mission with intense focus. Lyra trained alongside Mira, learning to handle weapons and practice combat maneuvers, while Rex taught her the intricacies of navigation and ship systems. She felt stronger, more capable with each passing moment, and the crew embraced her as one of their own. Finally, the day of the mission arrived. The Shadow's Whisper was cloaked and hidden in the shadows of an asteroid belt, waiting for the supply ship to pass by. Lyra's heart raced with a mix of fear and excitement as she stood on the bridge alongside Alex and the crew. The tension in the air was palpable. "There it is," Alex said, his voice steady as he pointed to the approaching Draxian vessel. It was larger than the Shadow's Whisper and bristling with weaponry, but Lyra focused on the task at hand. "Now we wait," she whispered. The crew held their breath, eyes fixed on the viewscreen. As the supply ship drew closer, she could see the Draxian insignia gleaming on its hull, a reminder of the empire she had left behind. When the moment came, Alex's voice rang out like a battle cry. "Now, Rex engage the cloaking system and maneuver us into position. With deft movements, the crew sprang into action. The ship moved with grace and precision. As they hid among the asteroids, waiting for the right moment to strike, Lyra felt a surge of determination coursing through her veins. They were about to make their mark. As the Draxian supply ship passed by, Lyra signaled to Rex now. He activated the ship's systems, unleashing a volley of firepower from their hidden position. The blast struck the Draxian ship's hull, causing explosions to erupt across its surface. Lyra felt a rush of adrenaline as chaos erupted on the Draxian vessel. The crew of the Shadow's Whisper seized the opportunity and pressed their attack, maneuvering through the asteroids with expert skill. "We're in their blind spot. They won't see us coming," Alex shouted, rallying the crew. Lyra's heart raced with excitement. They were truly in this together. The fight escalated as they engaged the Draxian ship. Lyra felt the weight of her decisions, but this was her moment to shine. She called out tactics to the crew, guiding them as they danced among the asteroids, dodging enemy fire. With every maneuver they executed, the exhilaration of battle surged through her veins. She was no longer just a princess, but a warrior fighting for freedom, and she reveled in the thrill of it all. The battle raged around them as the Shadow's Whisper wove through the asteroid field, dodging enemy fire and returning volleys with precision. Lyra felt alive, exhilarated by the chaos and camaraderie that surrounded her. Every moment was a testament to their resolve and unity. "We've got to take out their weapon systems," Lyra shouted over the din, her voice steady as she assessed the situation. Alex nodded, his eyes focused on the enemy ship. "The Draxians are reeling from our surprise attack, but they won't be down for long." Mira fired the ship's cannons, aiming at the Draxian weapons emplacements. Explosions rocked the enemy vessel as their cannons erupted in bursts of light. Lyra felt a thrill of victory surge through her. Every shot that landed was a step closer to their goal. "Keep it up," she encouraged her crew as they rallied around her with newfound determination. Rex deftly maneuvered the ship through the asteroids, while Alex barked orders, coordinating their efforts in a seamless dance of combat. The Draxian crew scrambled to respond, but their confusion worked in the humans' favor. Lyra could see the panic on their faces through the view screen. She felt a surge of triumph. They were not just fighting for survival, but for a future free from oppression. As they pressed their advantage, Lyra spotted an opening. The Draxian ship was vulnerable, their engines exposed. In a moment of clarity, she shouted, "Alex, now let's finish this." With a fierce determination, Alex steered the ship toward the enemy's engines. The crew braced themselves for impact as they unleashed everything they had. The weapons blared, and the ship shook with the force of their assault. The enemy ship erupted in flames as their engines detonated. The shockwave reverberated through the asteroid field. Lyra's heart raced as she witnessed the chaos unfold. The Draxians were disoriented, and their forces began to retreat in disarray. "We did it," Lyra cheered as the reality of their victory sank in, but the celebration was short-lived as alarms blared through the ship, warning of incoming Draxian reinforcements. "They're not done yet," Alex shouted, gripping the controls tightly. Lyra's heart sank as she realized the battle was far from over. "We need to get out of here," she urged, urgency flooding her voice. "They'll be here any minute." Rex pulled up the navigation charts, his eyes scanning for a route. "We can use the asteroid field to escape, if we maneuver just right." Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline as they set their course. Alex rallied the crew. "We've come too far to let them catch us now. Hold tight, everyone." As they navigated the treacherous terrain, the ship bucked and swayed through the asteroids. Lyra focused on the task at hand, her heart pounding in rhythm. With the ship's movements, she directed Mira to monitor their rear sensors. "Incoming ships," she reported, her voice tense. "We're being pursued." Lyra gritted her teeth and turned to Alex. "We can't let them follow us. If they regroup, they'll come back for us with reinforcements." He nodded, determination etched on his face. "Then we'll have to take another risk." Rex plot a course for the nearest nebula. It should provide cover if we can reach it. The crew moved swiftly as they executed the plan, weaving through the asteroids with expert precision. The Draxian ships behind them struggled to keep pace as they closed in on the nebula's swirling gases. As they entered the nebula, the visibility dropped drastically, But Lyra felt a sense of exhilaration. They were hidden from view. The Draxians would have a hard time tracking them in the dense clouds. Just as they disappeared into the mist, she could hear the distant sounds of their pursuers growing fainter. She exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "We made it, Alex," said his voice, a mix of relief and disbelief. The crew erupted into cheers, their victory ringing out in the small confines of the ship. Lyra felt a rush of pride swell within her. They had accomplished the impossible together. "We have to regroup and assess our next move," Lyra said, her voice rising above the celebration. "But for now, we celebrate this victory. It is just the beginning of our fight for freedom." As the crew cheered and shared stories of their harrowing battle, Lyra stood at the center of it, all feeling the weight of their journey ahead, but also the strength of the bonds they had forged. She was no longer just a princess. She was a part of something greater, and together they would face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store for them. The atmosphere on the Shadow's Whisper was electric as the crew celebrated their hard-fought victory. Amidst the swirling colors of the nebula, laughter and cheers echoed through the ship. Lyra felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced in her life as the team recounted their exploits and exchanged playful jabs. But amidst the festivities, Lyra's mind was focused on the road ahead. She knew their escape was only temporary, and the Draxian Empire would not take her defiance lightly. They needed a plan to ensure their safety and make their next move count. Gathering the crew together in the galley, Lyra stood at the head of the table, her heart pounding with purpose. "Thank you all for your bravery today," she began, her voice steady and confident. "But our fight is far from over." The crew quieted their excitement, replaced by attentive gazes. "We need to gather more resources and allies if we're going to stand against the Draxians," she continued. "We can't afford to rest on our laurels." Alex nodded, leaning forward in his seat. "I agree. We need to establish a base of operations, somewhere safe, where we can regroup and strategize." Rex chimed in. "We could reach out to other human colonies. They may be willing to join our cause if they hear about our victory today." Lyra felt a spark of hope ignite within her. The idea of uniting against their common enemy was exhilarating. "I can help with that," she said, her voice rising above the murmurs of agreement. "I have connections from my time as a princess. I can send messages discreetly to those I trust." Mira grinned. "That's brilliant. We can leverage your royal ties while positioning ourselves as the underdogs ready to challenge the Empire's hold on the galaxy." Lyra felt a rush of determination surge within her as they continued to brainstorm their next steps together. They crafted a plan to reach out to sympathetic human leaders across various colonies, weaving a network of allies that could amplify their message and resources. As the discussions unfolded, Lyra's mind raced with possibilities. She envisioned a coalition of human forces rising against the Draxian Empire, their defiance igniting a spark of hope across the galaxy. In the days that followed, they set their plan into motion. Using the Shadow's Whisper as their base, they sent messages to trusted contacts, while keeping a low profile within the nebula's cover. Lyra felt a sense of purpose guiding her actions. Every word she penned felt like a step toward liberation. But as they forged ahead, the tension never fully dissipated. The Draxian Empire would soon realize their princess was missing, and their forces would be relentless in their search. Lyra knew the clock was ticking. One evening, as they gathered for a strategy session, Alex spoke up. "We need to prepare for the worst. The Draxians will come looking for us, and we can't afford to be caught off guard." Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I'll help train the crew," she declared. It was time for everyone to be prepared for whatever lay ahead. She wanted them to be ready not just to fight but to survive. The following days were filled with grueling training sessions as Lyra led the crew in combat drills. They practiced maneuvers that utilized the ship's agility while honing their individual skills. She pushed them to their limits and beyond. As they became more than just a crew, they became a unit bound by trust and resilience. As they trained, Lyra felt a transformation within herself. She was no longer a princess, but a warrior capable of leading her people. She felt the fear of her past dissipate, replaced by a fierce determination to fight for a future where they could all be free. During one particularly intense training session, Alex approached her after watching her lead the crew through a series of complex maneuvers. "You're incredible," he said, admiration shining in his eyes. Lyra shrugged off the compliment, but couldn't help the smile that crept onto her face. "I'm just doing what needs to be done." As the crew continued to prepare, they received word from their contacts that a meeting was scheduled on a nearby planet with a group of sympathetic leaders. This was their chance to forge alliances and rally support. "We need to go there," Lyra urged the crew, her heart racing at the prospect of uniting their efforts. "We can't miss this opportunity." Alex looked at her, his expression serious. "It'll be dangerous. We need to stay vigilant." "I know," she replied, her voice steady, "but we can't let fear hold us back. This is our chance to create real change together." With their resolve strengthened, the crew set a course for the meeting, feeling the weight of their mission ahead. They were ready to face the challenges that lay before them, united in their fight for freedom and determined to reshape their destinies in the stars. The Shadow's Whisper glided through the cosmos on its way to the meeting with the sympathetic leaders. Lyra felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as the distant planet came into view, its surface dotted with green and blue hues, a stark contrast to the cold expanse of space she had come to know so well. As they approached the planet, Lyra gathered the crew on the bridge, her heart raced with anticipation. "Remember, this is our first real step toward forming an alliance," she began, her voice steady. "We need to present ourselves as united and determined." Alex nodded alongside her. The crew exchanged glances, their expressions serious. "We faced danger before," he said, "but this is different. We need to be on guard." As they landed on the planet's surface, they stepped out of the ship into a bustling marketplace, filled with the vibrant sounds and sights of various species trading and interacting. Lyra marveled at the diversity around her, but beneath the excitement lay a palpable tension. They made their way through the throngs of people towards a small meeting hall, nestled between towering structures. Lyra felt the weight of her royal status as she entered the building, but she was determined to shed that identity and embrace her role as a leader in this new fight. Inside the hall, they were greeted by a group of leaders from various human colonies, each one eyeing Lyra with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, greeting them with a warm smile. "Thank you all for coming. I know the risks involved in meeting with us." One of the leaders, a rugged man with graying hair, stepped forward, his expression stern. "Princess Lyra, your disappearance has not gone unnoticed. Your father will not stop until he finds you." Lyra met his gaze unflinching. "I understand the danger, but I refuse to hide while innocent lives are threatened. The Draxian Empire cannot continue to impose its will on us. We need to stand together to fight back." The room fell silent as her words hung in the air. She could see the leaders exchanging glances, weighing their options, before the man spoke again. "Many of us have faced oppression from the Draxians, but we have been too afraid to act." "I understand that fear," Lyra replied, her voice firm, "but we've already made our first strike. We've disrupted their supply lines and shown that we will not be easily intimidated. If we unite our efforts, we can rally support from other colonies." Another leader, a young woman with fierce determination in her eyes, leaned forward. "What's your plan?" Lyra felt the weight of her words as she laid out their vision for a coalition of human forces determined to challenge the Draxian Empire. "We can start by pooling our resources and coordinating our defenses," she explained. "We need to create a network that shares intelligence and strengthens our positions against any Draxian retaliation." As she spoke, she felt a surge of energy in the room. The leaders began to nod in agreement, their hesitance slowly melting away. Lyra could see the fire of hope igniting within them. Finally, after much discussion, the rugged leader stood again, his expression softened. "Princess Lyra, you have shown remarkable courage in the face of danger. If we can rally together and share our strength, we may finally have a chance to reclaim our freedom." The room erupted into murmurs of agreement as Lyra felt a wave of relief wash over her. They were beginning to unite. She had taken a significant step toward forging the alliances they desperately needed. As the meeting continued, they discussed strategies for communication and resource sharing. Lyra contributed ideas and insights gained from her time in the palace, as well as her experiences aboard the Shadow's Whisper. But just as they were beginning to outline their plans, an alarm suddenly blared through the hall, a low rumble shaking the walls of the building. Lyra's heart sank as she exchanged alarmed looks with Alex. "What's happening?" she demanded as the leader scrambled to assess the situation. The rugged leader turned pale. "The Draxians must have tracked us here. We need to get to the ship," he urged, urgency in his voice. Lyra felt a surge of adrenaline as they moved quickly through the bustling marketplace. She could hear distant shouts and the sounds of chaos echoing around them. Her mind raced with thoughts of the crew left vulnerable on the ship. "We can't leave anyone behind," she insisted. "We need to warn them and defend our home." As they rushed towards the ship, the Draxian forces emerged from the shadows, their ships hovering ominously above the marketplace, beams of light piercing through the chaos. Lyra's heart pounded as she prepared to face the oncoming storm. United with her crew and newfound allies, she would not back down from this fight. They had come too far to let fear dictate their fate. The tension in the marketplace escalated as Draxian ships loomed overhead, casting ominous shadows over the throngs of people. Lyra felt a mix of fear and determination surge through her. She had come too far to falter now. As they sprinted toward the shadows' whisper, the rugged leader shouted orders to his fellow humans, urging them to take cover. Lyra kept pace with Alex, her mind racing with strategies. They had to get to the ship and rally their forces before the Draxians unleashed chaos. They reached the ship just as the first blasts of energy erupted from the Draxian vessels. Lyra's heart raced as she saw the crew, already engaged in battle. Rex was at the helm directing evasive maneuvers, while Mira fired back at the enemy ships. Lyra climbed aboard, her instincts kicking, and this was her fight too, and she had a role to play. "All right, everyone," she shouted over the din. "We need to protect our home. And these people rally to me. We fight together." Alex nodded and positioned himself by her side. The crew and their allies sprang into action, forming a makeshift defense around the ship. As Draxian forces descended upon them, the battle had begun in earnest. Lyra felt the adrenaline pumping through her veins as she took her position at a weapons console. She had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put her skills to the test. She coordinated fire with Mira and shouted tactical orders to the crew. "Incoming fire at 3 o'clock, she warned as she aimed and fired the ship's cannons. The blast erupted into the sky, striking a Draxian ship and sending it spiraling down into the chaos below. Rex maneuvered the ship with expert precision, weaving through the incoming blasts. As the crew worked in unison, they were a well-oiled machine. Lyra felt pride swell within her as she witnessed the strength of their bond. But the Draxians were relentless, and as more ships joined the fray, Lyra realized they needed a new strategy. She glanced at Alex's determination fueling her. "We can't hold them off forever. We need to take out their command ship." He nodded, understanding the urgency in her voice. "If we can disable their leader's ship, it will disrupt their coordination and give us a chance to rally." Lyra quickly assessed the situation there as she shouted, pointing to a massive Draxian ship hovering above the fray. It was heavily armored, but if they could find a way to penetrate its defenses, they might turn the tide of battle. "Let's do this," she urged the crew. Alex piloted the Shadow's whisper toward the command ship, weaving through enemy fire. As they got closer, Lyra felt her heart pound. With every near miss, they had to stay focused. As they approached the command ship, Lyra could see Draxian forces scrambling to respond. They hadn't expected this counterattack. It was their moment of opportunity. She called out to Mira, "Now unleash everything we have." The crew poured their firepower into the command ship. The energy blasts illuminated the darkness of space. The ship shook as they pressed their assault. Lyra felt the thrill of battle coursing through her veins. They were making a stand. With one final surge of determination, Lyra aimed directly at the ship's reactor, targeting the heart of the command vessel. She pressed the trigger, feeling a rush of triumph as their blast struck true. The Draxian command ship erupted in a brilliant explosion, sending debris scattering through space. Lyra watched as the Draxian forces faltered, their communication disrupted, and confusion spread among their ranks. "We did it," she shouted, joy filling her voice. The crew erupted into cheers around her. They had struck a decisive blow against their oppressors. But their victory was short-lived. As alarms blared through the Shadow's whisper, the Draxians would regroup and retaliate. They had to get out of here. Rex set a course for the nearest safe planet. "We need to regroup and plan our next move," he said, his voice steady. Lyra felt a swell of hope. They had proven that they could stand up to the Draxians together. As they fled the scene, Lyra took a moment to look around at her crew, their faces filled with determination and camaraderie. She knew this was just the beginning. They had forged a bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. With renewed purpose, Lyra addressed the crew. "This is our fight for freedom, and our chance to create a future free from tyranny." She felt a fierce resolve in her heart. They would not be silenced. They would rise together, ready to challenge the darkness of the galaxy and reclaim their destinies united as one.